Broadcasting live from the Capitol OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on this Saturday morning. I'm Seth Merrow. Thanks for joining us. Fun show this morning. A little bit later on, we'll be joined by George Weaver. I actually recorded an interview with him yesterday, but he has point of honor in today's Ogden Phipps. She'll be a real contender in there, but I also wanted to talk to George about last week's just eye-popping performance by Vekoma in the Carter. So we'll get a review of that and what the plans may be going forward for Vekoma. Also, we had a nice 3-year-old sprinting filly down at Gulfstream win a stake last week, up in smoke, so we caught up a little bit on her as well. Then towards the end of the program, our friend Ellis Star, national racing analyst from Equibase, will join us. We'll do some stakes previews for this afternoon. Some nice stakes. The Ogden Phipps, obviously, at Belmont. A couple of stakes up at Woodbine. The Louisville down at Churchill Downs. So Ellis will join us as well. But hard to believe, we are only a week away from leg number 1 in the 2020 Triple Crown, which this year will be the Grade 1 $1 million mile and an eighth Belmont Stakes. And I said yesterday during OTB Live, typically, you know, you're in that month before the Derby, and that's all the conversation is. This year, it seems a little bit subdued because of the different schedule, and I think just people are kind of reawakening to horse racing overall. So it's very interesting that, you know, we, as I say, the countdown starts here, and I think as we get into this week, there will be more and more discussion, but we're certainly going to kick some of it off this morning. We'll be joined at the top of the show here by our friend Jack Knowlton from Sackatoga. They have Tiz the Law, the likely, I think, almost certain favorite for next Saturday's Belmont Stakes. And I'm not sure I hear him in my ear, but I will check and see. Jack, do we have you? Jack, good morning.
You do, yes.
There we
I'm
go.
on. Believe it or not, I am on the weekend here in Sackett's Harbor, New York,
Nice.
where Sackatoga Stable was created 25 years ago.
Yeah, very nice. And Jack, obviously the conversation focusing on Tiz the Law. I want to do a little maybe funny side walk down memory lane before we let you go too. But let's talk a little Tiz the Law. We'll go back to the March 28th Florida Derby, and we'll watch the stretch run there. Number 7 will be Tiz the Law. And just give me your impressions of this race, because, boy, you know, he was so talented last year, and then there was maybe the question mark coming out of the race at Churchill, the Kentucky Jockey Club, where he ran 3rd. I thought that was a very good race, and I thought he would come out of that having learned a lot given the circumstances. Proved that in the Holy Bull, but then just impressed even more in this Florida Derby. We're watching the stretch run here. Again, give us your impressions of his win in the Florida Derby.
Well, we were fortunate. Manny Franco gave him just the perfect ride. And, we were concerned after the race in Kentucky that, really it wasn't through Manny's fault. He broke a little bit slow, and Manny ended up getting stuck down inside, and they had a slow pace, and he just never really could get out and make his run. There was a seam that opened late, but by that point, I think he was frustrated. They were going slow. He was stuck in the mud on the inside, the worst part of the racetrack. So I agree with you. You know, we didn't think it was a bad race. We decided afterwards to just draw lines for that race. That we didn't think was the real Tiz the Law. Then he came back in the Holy Bull, which arguably was the best race that he's had, because Manny got in a little bit of a pickle with him inside, and really kind of had to put the brakes on and gloat around horses. But then he really showed his ability. And, the thing about him, and it was the same with the Florida Derby, except, Manny just had him outside the whole way, stalking, and, beat a horse that was coming off a win in the Fountain of Youth, H.A. Indian, that was very impressive. So he's done, everything that he's been asked, and, it's been a long time. He's won off an 8-week layoff and a 9-week layoff. Now he's going to be asked to win off an 11-week layoff. But as you said, these are not usual times.
Well, talk about that a little bit. We'll show the workout here from earlier this week. Pulled up that, and it seems like a very good workout. And Barkley certainly seems to be exuding confidence. I read the Dave Grenig article in the Racing Forum a couple days ago. But talk a little bit about that. Is there concern among the team with the layoff? As you say, it's kind of a function of where we are right now with the situation this year with the pandemic, as it were, and a little bit of a limited number of racing opportunities. But again, we're watching the nice workout earlier this week. Seems great in the mornings, but is there a concern about the layoff?
There really isn't. As I said, he's already proven twice this year that he can win a big race off a big layoff. And, Barkley knows the horse, and Barkley's been doing this for a long time. He has a good feel for, when to really press a little harder and when to back off. And from everything that I hear talking to Barkley, everything that I see when I, watch the workouts on TV, he looks like he has got everything going for him. And he may even be better. I mean, horses this time of year, in that 3-year-old year, a couple of months is a long time. This is going to be almost 3 months. I'm hoping that he's matured. He's gotten a little bigger, a little stronger. So I think hopefully he's going to show it in the Belmont that he may even be better than he was in his earlier 2 races this year.
Give me your confidence level a little bit, because we consider you locals essentially, and so we love rooting for the Saratoga horses. And as a fan of the Saratoga horses, I'm coming into the race with some confidence that we may give you a call next Sunday morning about the victory. I don't want to jinx anything, but talk a little bit about, as we're coming into this different situation in the Triple Crown. Normally, the Kentucky Derby, there are 20 horses kind of duking it out to get in the starting gate. And even though it's a Grade 1 and $1 million, and they've cut the distance back to 1 1/8 miles, it looks like it's going to be a very reasonable field. And boy, it looks like you are not just a likely favorite. It's almost certain Tiz the Law will be the favorite in here, the way things have shaken out the last couple of weeks. Just give me your confidence level a week away.
Well, I have a high degree of confidence. As you said, this race is really fallen apart. 3 weeks ago or so, when I, talked about the Belmont, I said, the Belmont is this year it's going to be the Kentucky Derby in many ways. And with all of the, unfortunate circumstances for other top-notch horses that have occurred, as you said, it looks like an 8-horse field on paper, and for sure we know they do not run the races on paper. I mean, his numbers look better than those other horses. I think, if he can get a trip, and the configuration of this track, particularly with an 8-horse field, should give Manny all kinds of options to put him where he wants to put him, and that I think is the key. And the other thing is, if you look at the races that he's won, the jock has never given him the stick. He's never really been asked. So we don't know where his bottom is, and hopefully we won't have to find out, in this race.
I'm trying to think back. It was Florida Derby was a no-fan situation. Is that right? And what was that like for you, not being able to be there?
Well, I was a mile away in the condo that I have with my wife, my grandson, and one of our partners. It was disappointing. I had, really hoped to be able to maybe just go over and be in the parking lot and watch the top of the stretch where I thought, he would probably put the race away, and it ended up being that way. But it was frustrating, and I still don't know. We haven't been given any signal that we can be at Belmont. So, the way New York has been opening, a lot of things have been last-minute decisions. I'm hoping we, get a green light that, at least some of our folks could go, but that's, up in the air at this point.
Hopefully, some of the tracks are now allowing owners, and as you kind of alluded, the New York situation having been a hot spot, maybe a little bit different, but when they come upstate, it wouldn't surprise me if owners are allowed. And what's the game plan? And are you just kind of, one race at a time, obviously, but clearly between now and the first Saturday in September, there would have to be a race you would think, and Saratoga's sitting out there. And have you heard anything, ear to the ground as far as Travers and where that'll go? And would that be a logical point for Tiz the Law if that option, on the calendar works out?
Oh, absolutely. What I'm hearing, and I thought that they'd have a stake schedule out for Saratoga this week. I had heard that it was going to come out this week, but I haven't seen it yet. I keep hearing more that it's going to be August 8th. I guess the backup would be August 1st, but it seems like it's going to be August 8th, and obviously, as long as he comes out of the Belmont in good order, that's the race that we would absolutely target.
Also have to ask you, as he is a New York bred, you've been active at the Saratoga New York bred sales. You're a proponent of the New York bred program. They've moved the sale this year, both of the Saratoga sales, the Select and the New York bred. They're incorporating them into the Facing Kentucky sale. Will you be heading to Kentucky to look at New York breds?
We just bought 2 New York breds down in Ocala this week.
Nice.
So we weren't waiting. We got a couple of New York breds, a colt and a filly. One bought privately and one in the sale yesterday by a new sire. We seem to have had pretty good luck with new sires, so we're going to try it again. Leoban is first crop going to run this year, and hopefully these two will show up at Saratoga.
Guillot, right? Guillot had Leoban, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of sires, I'll toss that in too. Funny side, your first Derby winner was a gelding. How much more special is it to have a colt running, just from a partnership and business perspective?
Yeah, no, it's great. We're looking forward to that. That's very exciting, and we just want to keep them running. I'm certainly looking to have them around another year for sure, and have a chance to go to some races that we'd love to follow up on.
Running short here, but just before we let you go, as I said, I did want to just get some memories going back to Funny Side. It literally seems like it was just yesterday, but we're watching the stretch run here. 2003, the Funny Side victory. And I had pulled up the NBC broadcast on YouTube yesterday, and I think we have a little shot of you in the winner's circle as well, where you're commenting, hey, we're just a small group and only 3 horses right now. Just now that we're 17 years out, it had to be very special that day, but just looking back now and realizing how special it was, do you still have the same feeling, or maybe even stronger emotions looking back?
Oh, yeah. I mean, and it's special coming back to my hometown. And one of my original partners, Mark Phillips, the original Stack at 6, I saw him this morning, and people are around talking, and it's still a huge deal in Stackett Harbor. I mean, people remember it very fondly, and they say, other than the War of 1812, which Stackett Harbor is very famous for, Funny Side is number 2, and he's still a hero up there.
Yeah, very good. And as I say, it seems like it was just yesterday, but how long had you been in the game when you won that first Derby?
We started in 95.
Okay, so 8 years. That's pretty good turnaround, and now back.
Yeah, about our ninth or 10th horse in the Kentucky Derby. So.
Yeah, very good.
And 17 years, never in the world did I think we'd have another horse that you could even think about being in the Triple Crown races. But we've got him, and hopefully he'll take us for another ride.
Yeah, 4 wins and 5 starts so far, and hopefully adding another one a week from today. Jack, we wish you a lot of great luck in the Belmont. Hopefully we're talking to you again shortly after that about the victory and plans for maybe up to Saratoga for the Travers. But appreciate the conversation this morning. Good luck next week.
I enjoyed it very much. Thank you so much. Bye-bye now.
Jack Knowlton, Saratoga. They have Tiz the Law coming up in next week's Belmont. Again, easy to root for them, as we do kind of consider them locals with Saratoga connections and whatnot. So we're wishing Jack a lot of good luck. But again, going back to 2003, you saw that stretch run there, but I wanted to also pull it up. As I say, I watched the NBC broadcast is available on YouTube. You can watch the entire broadcast. And after the race, Bobby Frankel with Empire Maker and Peace Rules is and through that whole Triple Crown, if you don't remember or you weren't around then, he was kind of the guy with the black hat and seemed happy to play it with Empire Maker versus Funny Side. But I thought as we went into the commercial break, we would pull up with the Tom Durkin audio, the stretch run of that 2003 Kentucky Derby. And let's take a look at Funny Side and his Kentucky Derby victory for Jack Knowlton and Saratoga Partners.
Back of the pack, and then it's out of here. Lone Star Sky and 10 Cents a Shine trails the field. The half went in a grueling 46 1/5 seconds. Peace Rule and Brancusi head-to-head with 5 furlongs to go here. Funny Side is called on for run as they approach the half-mile pole. Eye of the Tiger fourth and toiling on the outside. Then it's Domestic Disputer slips through in between horses. Scrimshaw with the chance. He's only 5 lengths from the lead. Jerry Bailey is now launching his bid with Empire Maker. And there they go. They're moving on the outside. 6th a moment ago. And now they're 5th on the outside with 3 furlongs to go. They've run 3/4 in 1:10-1. They're approaching the top of the stretch. Funny Side to the neck of Peace Rule. Empire Maker charging hard. A sustained rally for him on the far outside. He turns for home. Eye of the Tiger. Brancusi is spent. Domestic Dispute is in between horses. Scrimshaw is calling. Awfully wild there on the outside. They're coming down to the final furlong. And the gutsy gelding Funny Side has a narrow lead. Bobby Frankel's Derby duo. Peace rolls to his inside. Empire Maker is giving it all. Funny Side trying to pull up the upset here. 12-1 coming down to the line. And the gutsy gelding Funny Side has won the 129th Kentucky Derby. With jockey Jose Santos aboard, and it was dead tight for second between Frankel's horses. Peace Rolls and Empire Maker. That's what I'm talking about. Put in a belated run to be third.
To Albany County, an incredible destination to live, work, and play, with easy connections to more than a dozen cities from our vibrant modern airport. It's a short trip downtown to a hive of culture and amusement. From world-class shows at the newly renovated Times Union Center to reliving the past at the New York State Museum. From outdoor recreation to shopping to nightlife, Albany County has something for everyone. We'll see you soon.
Hits apart as they move down the back stretch.
And he guides him down to the rail as the field turns for home.
A furlong to the finish.
The incomparable, unbeatable cigar. It's too close to call.
He is moving like a tremendous machine.
Wagering on horse racing just got a lot easier at Capital OTB with our newly designed state-of-the-art mobile wagering site. Everything you need is right here on one easy-to-navigate mobile platform. Set your favorite tracks, pick your horses, place your bets, all with a simple tap of the screen. Plus, you'll have access to Capital OTB TV for all our network programming. So log on to CapitalOTBBet.com and see just how easy wagering on horse racing can be.
Happy to be joined now by trainer George Weaver. Big weekend last weekend, also looking to have a real contender in the Phipps on Saturday afternoon. George, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Very good. Happy to have you on board to talk a little last week, a little this week, a little review, a little preview. Before we get into that, though, I've been asking everybody the last couple of weeks. I've just been on for a couple of weeks now because I was in the lockdown period for March and April, or April and May, I guess, mostly. But how did that affect your business during the lockdown period? Obviously, still racing down in Florida, but how did that change up the way you did things?
Well, there were some, the racing opportunities were limited somewhat, but with us being based in South Florida and with Gulfstream able to keep the ball rolling there and keep racing going, it had some effect on me, but not too bad. Not too bad. We do what we do every day. We go to work 7 days a week. We take care of our horses and try to keep them, keep them fit and point for races. And so my schedule was pretty much the same. Just maybe some limited racing opportunities for horses, especially obviously in New York. New York was down for quite a while, but I'm just glad it looks like we're coming out on the other side, and hopefully the everything gets a little more opened up and get back to normal.
Yeah, it certainly seems we're getting back to at least some sense of normalcy over the past couple of weeks in the racing world. What is, for you specifically as a trainer, down in Florida, now up in New York, what's kind of your protocol? I saw you in the winner's circle last week and you had the mask on and whatnot. What's the protocol for you and your staff in the mornings, the afternoons?
Everybody's got to wear a mask, the whole time.
Sure.
You're around the barn, and everybody's trying to practice social distancing. You wear your mask, and we try not to get all grouped together or be close to other people. So I mean, it's you hear on TV that kind of stuff helps a lot. Hopefully we don't have any more outbreaks, and there won't be any interruptions to racing. I mean, the mask thing is, especially when it's hot outside, it's not fun to wear it. But everybody's kind of getting used to it, and hey, we want to do whatever we can do so that we can, race our horses and keep on going.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it is kind of a pain in the neck sometimes, but if you have to do what you have to do to keep things going, all good. All right, let's talk a little bit. First, we'll start out with Saturday afternoon in the Ogden Phipps Grade 1 event, $300,000 Fillies and Mares. And, George, we're going to take a look at the Apple Blossom. We're going to watch the stretch run here, but I want you to talk a little bit about the performance of Point of Humor. Cece is going to win. She's going to be the number 14. Ollie's Candy, who is back on Saturday afternoon, the number 1 horse, finishes second. But number 5 is Point of Honor, who comes from out of the clouds. We see the chicklet here. Point of Honor is still sitting in the back of the pack. And in this Apple Blossom, just got off to a poor start. So the third place finish in here was very commendable. Give me your thoughts on how Point of Honor performed in that Apple Blossom, given the poor start.
Yeah, she ran huge. She had, sometimes when horses, if they don't break particularly quick, which she did not break, she didn't break sharp that day. If the 2 horses on either side of her did break sharp and had natural speed, I think one of them was Come Dancing, but what ends up happening is it leaves a void and we just got squeezed out. So Drayden Van Dyke had to, not only did we break a little slow, but that's okay if you break slow sometimes, but we got squeezed out and that cost us another 3 or 4 lengths. Drayden had to kind of grab a hold of her, and we went into the first turn. I was there watching it live, and I was not very happy. I felt like all chances to win were now gone. So, she's going around the first bend there, heads to the 3/4 pole. She must have been 20. I don't know what the chart says, but she was between 20 and 25 lengths out of it, and it wasn't a great feeling watching it. I was like, well, what are we going to do here? They did set a legitimate pace in there. And I saw her making a move, and I started to get excited. And she came running and wasn't beat very far for everything. So we were very happy to get third after having that start. And as far as sheer performance, I don't know how you could fault it. I mean, I think that just that little bit that we lost at the start, we lost more at the start than what we lost by. So she's a really good mare. The Apple Blossom was a very tough race with a bunch of Grade 1 winners in it, and we're looking forward to getting her back over there in the Phipps.
Yeah, the early chart margin, 23 lengths. The finishing chart margin, she was third by only 2 1/4. So it was certainly a nice performance. Workouts underneath show her working at Palm Beach Downs. How long has she been up in New York?
She flew up here on Monday. She flew up there on Monday. She had I didn't see it posted in the forum. The clocker's not down there, and we tried to get it emailed in. But she worked in 101 and change before she came up here, and it was a real nice work for her. And I think she's sitting on go.
That Apple Blossom was a lifetime best buyer of 95. How'd she come out of the race? And given the workouts down at Palm Beach and her arrival in New York, how do you think she's coming into Saturday's race?
I think she's coming into the race great. Very, very happy with her. She's happy. She's training well, moving well, eating well, giving me all positive signs. So we're really looking forward to leading her over there tomorrow.
We saw her up here in Saratoga, right in our neck of the woods, run second in the Coaching Club American Oaks, run second in the Alabama, and a really nice 3-year-old season last year. Those obviously around 2 turns. The Apple Blossom around 2 turns. Belmont Park with a little bit of a different configuration, a 1 16th. But it's only 1 turn. That benefit her? Do you have a concern?
You're always concerned when you feel like you're doing something a little bit new. I always thought that she was probably better suited to two-turn races. In fairness, she got to run one turn at the beginning of this year in a 7-furlong race at Tampa, and really the numbers didn't come back that bad in that race. Look, she's not a true sprinter, and the concern that you have in any kind of one-turn race, it is a mile and 16. She's going to, the distance is there, but occasionally, sometimes a one-turn mile or one-turn mile and 16 can play a little bit like a sprint at Belmont. It doesn't always, but it can. Look, I think Ollie's Candy is going to be a forward factor, perhaps blamed as well. There should be enough pace for us to, I'd like to see her get comfortable down the backside and be able to set her up for her run. But like I said, the numbers didn't come back in the one-turn 7/8 at Tampa. We're going another 1.5 furlongs more than that this time. She's in great form, and I don't think the one turn is going to be an issue. I think she's going to run a big race.
Yeah, it looks like enough speed in there to set up a late run by her, and given what we saw down at Oaklawn, that should play out well. All right, now I want to go back to last week because, boy, this was on a really great stakes weekend, coast to coast. This was probably one of the best performances of the weekend, if not the best. We're going to take a look at the stretch run of the Carter here and watch Vekoma. The Vekoma's going to be the number 11 horse. Buyer figure of 110. As we can see, the track was off. It is labeled as sloppy in the chart. Just give me your thoughts as you watch the stretch run here. The stretch run winds up to be just over 7 lengths, the margin on the stretch run. So give me your thoughts on the performance in the Carter from Vekoma.
Well, he's always been such a special colt. Very, very talented. Got a lot of class. I mean, he's just all racehorse. We've always known how special he is, and certainly he got on the radar as a youngster, breaking his maiden and winning the Nashua, and then coming back and getting the Bluegrass, trying to head into the Derby. But he's just such a special horse, and we had to give him a little break. And when I was watching the Carter on, on Saturday, I'm up in the stands, and I mean, I almost got a little teary-eyed. I'm just so proud of the horse. He's such a determined horse. When I saw him come to the quarter pole and such authority that he was running with, I mean, you could see it was about to happen, and he was just going to take off, and the rest of them were going to be chasing him. And I'm just so proud of the horse. And it was gave me goosebumps watching him come down there, man. He ran like a champ.
Did you expect that? Because it was really eye-popping. I mean, this was a salty little field, and to run off and run away like that, I mean, were you expecting a good effort, or did you think, maybe we'll have something really special?
He's just such a good horse. Nothing like that would ever surprise me. You know what I mean? I felt like, I felt like I knew how good he was. But, if you're a speed figure guy, you're looking at his buyer figures. Okay, he won the Bluegrass, and, he ran a 90, maybe a 94 buyer figure or something in there. If you're a sheep guy, he's run some 8s and 7s. I always knew that he had a performance like that in him. I know he's that type of horse. He's just he's been special from the beginning, and so it didn't really surprise me. Obviously, when we ran him in the Derby, the track went to crap there. Not shortly before the race, the clouds opened up and it rained, and the track was kind of gluey. I mean, he's bred to like the slop. His mother liked the slop, but I guess with the Derby performance, you got that little part in you that's like, well, did he not like the track, or you just didn't know. So when it rained at Belmont and the track came up sloppy, I had doubts. I wasn't 100% sure that he was going to do that. But I do know one thing, that he's got the heart of a champion, and if he can do it, he's going to go do it. He is very, very intelligent horse. He knows what he's going over there to do, and he'll give it to you. He'll give you what he's got, and he will, they'll get it done.
Yeah, boy, that was super impressive. But I also want to go back, and we've kind of alluded to it, I want to go back to the first race of the season as well. We're going to show the stretch run to the Sir Shackleton back on March 28th. This was the 4-year-old debut. Vekoma's going to be the number 8 horse here. Wins by a chart margin of just under 4 lengths here with a 102 buyer. Clearly jumps up to the triple-digit buyer off a good 3-year-old season, as you said, the Bluegrass winner, but jumps up to that triple-digit lifetime best here before bettering it last week in the Carter. But I've talked about it the last couple of months. A lot of 3-year-olds from last year have now come back and just kind of really become a solid 4-year-old class in the handicapping division. He is one of those horses. Did you see some maturity added to this horse? You know, you were off from the Kentucky Derby to that Sir Shackleton. Did you see some maturity, and is he just kind of a new horse, and improved horse now as a 4-year-old?
By a long way. Look, he's always been special, but this horse was a May baby, and he's probably 100 pounds heavier now than he was then. He's turned from a boy into a man. I mean, he's just a gorgeous horse. He's filled out, and he's a lot more mature. And all that, you know, those are factors that add up to these big speed figures and kind of some big performances. You always hope that they get better as they get a little older, more mature. And racehorses go through a lot of things, but it doesn't surprise me because, like I said, he is really filled out and matured. He's in great form, looks great. Couldn't be happier with him.
And I have to ask now, what's next? I mean, the Met Mile comes up on July 4th. Is that going to be a game plan? Again, he won the Bluegrass around 2 turns, but this year it's been 7 furlongs in the mile. So what'll be the game plan going forward? Met Mile, but then are you still looking, given what we saw last year in the Bluegrass, 2 turns potentially, or are you thinking to stick with 1 turn as the year goes along?
Well, the Met Mile is the first thing that comes up. You know, it comes back in 4 weeks. I think any speed figure guy would tell you that this, he might be primed for a bounce. He really wasn't tired the other day, and he seems like he came back well. We've got to take a close look at the Met Mile. It's such a historic race, and from my standpoint, I grew up as a racing fan, and the Met Mile has always been one of my favorite races. It'd be right up there with any of the great races in the world to win. It would be a special win. So we're going to monitor how he's doing, and if he's doing well, we're going to give the Met Mile a shot. If not, you'll probably pick a spot in Saratoga and just fly out a course will make us get to the Breeders' Cup. Now, as far as distance, I mean, I think the horse is still has a lot of dimensions to him. I probably, going 1.25 miles, I'm not sure about that, but we've got, I think going to the Breeders' Cup, we need to try to sort out whether or not we'd like to go in the sprint or the mile. And so I think we'll entertain quite a few options with him the rest of the year.
Yeah, you should definitely have a fun year given what we've seen in the last couple, and we'll look for him up here at Saratoga at some point, hopefully. Just before I let you go, I want to go back last week as well, down in Florida. You had a nice winner in a little stake down there, nice little 3-year-old filly. We're going to watch the stretch run in the game face of number 3, Up in Smoke. This was her 4th win in 5 career starts. Give me your thoughts on Up in Smoke and how she performed last weekend down at Gulfstream.
Yeah, we were very happy with that performance. It just ended up not being her cup of tea trying to run her long. I wanted to experiment. The jockey said, the jockeys that had gotten on her in her sprint win said that she would go a little further and try to run her long. And I wanted to kind of play that card and see what happened. There weren't a whole lot of options for that and when we ran her long. So they had that spot at Gulfstream. I was like, let's go ahead and answer this question right now. She was doing well, and it just didn't work out. She didn't have a great trip, and there's not much pace developed. And, she's a little bit of a closer sprinting, so you would think going longer that she'd be closer to the pace naturally. But unfortunately, she ended up being back off the pace in there as well. And she made a little run into the 3/8 pole, but it just wasn't her cup of tea. So it was a natural step to just go back to sprint, and, man, she fired big the other day. So she's 4 for 4 sprinting. We're pretty much wrapping up in Florida now, even though she's a Florida bred. It's not like they have any incredibly lucrative spots down there. We're going to take her up to Saratoga and give her a shot at one of those nice 3-year-old races up there. Maybe the Test, Smith Priors. As long as she's training well, we're going to give her a shot to run one of those.
I was going to ask, you got a 3-year-old sprinting filly, the Test, that seems like a logical spot, so maybe we'll look for her there. Again, she has shown a lot of talent as well. So it's been certainly a nice week, and George, we wish you a lot of good luck, and hopefully things continue with Point of Honor this afternoon. We appreciate the conversation, and we'll talk again.
Great. Thanks for having me, guys.
Very good. George Weaver, again, Vekoma, really impressive last week, and Point of Honor in this afternoon's Ogden Phipps. Thanks to George Weaver. Again, we got in touch with him, recorded that yesterday. I think Point of Honor looks good. It's going to be interesting. As he was kind of alluding to, it's going to play out how it works pace-wise, because she is likely to to come from a little bit off of the pace, maybe not as far off as she did in the Apple Blossom, but at the one turn down at Belmont, it'll be an intriguing addition to the Phipps. We'll talk about that in a couple of minutes, get some ideas as well from Ellis Star, but point of honor, and looking forward to the season from Vekoma. And Up in Smoke, maybe we'll see, hopefully, both of them up in Saratoga as well. Just wanted to go over this week's NTRA Top Thoroughbred Poll. Both this time of year, there's both an overall poll and a 3-year-old poll. On the 3-year-old side, Tiz the Law on top. But after last week's performance on her AP, goes up to number 2, zooms to number 2 from number 6 the week before. Maxfield 3rd, Authentic 4th, King Guillermo 5th. In there, poll came out, typically comes out on Monday, came out Monday this week. So again, after last weekend's results, Tiz the Law, Honor AP 1-2 on the NTRA 3-year-old poll. On the overall poll, Midnight Bijou on top there. Mucho Gusto second by my standards. Code of Honor, Tom's Day Tot. Vekoma moves up the list. A couple of weeks ago, Vekoma was 26, now sits at number 7. Improbable, with a win last Sunday out in Southern California. Or now I'm thinking, was it the day, last weekend. Moves up the list to number 8. Maximum Security 9, McKinsey. McKinsey may have been the Sunday winner, but they were both recent winners. But McKinsey rounds out the list. But Midnight Bijou up on top. It's going to be interesting to see what happens as far as a little showdown between Midnight Bijou and Monomoy Girl. We'll wait and see. You know, a couple of older filly and mare races sitting up at Saratoga if they want to fire up the duel up there. Also, other notes, the Ocala Sale this week. You talked when we talked to Jack Nolan, he mentioned by some New York breds down in Ocala. Seems like the Ocala Sale doing very well. And the sales are a little bit of a bellwether economically to kind of point to how the industry is doing, in my opinion. And certainly after the lockdown, with some of the sales having kind of gone to the sidelines during that period, to have Ocala come back and do well is good news, I think, for the industry. So again, this week the Ocala Sale did seem to be doing pretty well. Other reopening news, Saratoga Harness kicks back off this coming Thursday, and it sounds like early on they will have a Thursday-Sunday schedule. But not only the horses back the thoroughbred side at Oklahoma, the training track last week, but next Thursday, this coming Thursday, Saratoga Harness reopens. According to the Daily Racing Form, Gulfstream Casino will open next Thursday. That's interesting. We'll see how things shake out as far as those type of things in some of the rest of the country. Important to the horse racing game because a lot of these casinos tied to racetracks are providing purse money, obviously. And so that's why some racetracks you're seeing restricted days or restricted number of races. They're just trying to use the purse money they do have and parse it out in a little better fashion, given that it's a little more restricted right now. So as I say, it'll be interesting to see how other places do. Also, just wanted to mention, going through the racing form, this will be interesting. Take a look at Lone Star on Monday. Keith Asmussen will be in the saddle. Who is he in the Asmussen clan? The nephew of Cash Asmussen, the very talented jockey, but the son of Steve Asmussen, who is actually a college student, but according to the article, when college went online earlier this year, he popped over to Arkansas and was helping his dad and was riding some horses in the morning. And so he's going to make his debut as a jockey. Lone Star on Monday in the 9th race, a horse called Senior Jobin. Be interesting to see Keith Asmussen. And his dad, believe it or not, Cash Asmussen, was very talented and eventually went over and had a better career in Europe, or a career in Europe, a good career in Europe. I think he got a little bit heavy for over here, and he could get away with a couple extra pounds in Europe. His dad, Steve Asmussen, was a jockey early on too, and he absolutely outgrew that profession. But it'll be interesting to see what Keith Asmussen does on Monday out at Lone Star in his first ride as a professional jockey. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll be joined by our friend Ellis Star. Little stakes preview section coming up. Stay tuned.
Wagering on horse racing just got a lot easier at Capital OTB with our newly designed state-of-the-art mobile wagering site. Everything you need is right here on one easy-to-navigate mobile platform. Set your favorite tracks, pick your horses, place your bets, all with a simple tap of the screen. Plus, you'll have access to Capital OTB TV for all our network programming. So log on to CapitalOTBBet.com and see just how easy wagering on horse racing can be. No matter where in the world you are, the excitement of wagering on horse racing is just a click away. You'll get live streaming, past performances, race replays, our virtual tote board, analysis and selections from professional handicappers, a simple, safe, and secure wagering platform, and best of all, you get track prices. CapitalOTBBet.com. Bet any place, anytime at CapitalOTBBet.com. And be sure to download our new mobile app from the iTunes Store or Google Play.
Birdstone is an outside front. They're coming down to the finish. Can Smarty Jones hold on? Here comes Birdstone. Birdstone surges past. Birdstone wins the Belmont Stakes. In front, but here comes High Chaparral. High Chaparral, the defending champ, to take it to Bob. These two arch rivals head to head with Joe Hart bearing down on them. It's going to be a three-horse photo finish in the turn. Here's the wire. Photo finish.
Racing across America on a Saturday morning. Happy to be joined now by our friend Ellis Star, racing analyst for Equibase. Ellis, good morning.
Good morning, Seth. Good morning, racing fan.
Been asking everybody, and I'll ask you, how was quarantine, lockdown, stay-at-home time for you down in the Lexington area? And admit it, I over the past couple of weeks have thanked numerous times Gulfstream, Tampa, Oaklawn, Will Rogers Downs, and Fonner. And as I say, admit it, like the rest of us, did you play a little Fonner?
I did play Fonner one time. I was part of that bad DQ in the big force out, I think it was, and I think that was the only time I played.
I took a couple of shots at the mandatories they had there.
But yes, it was good to see it. It was unfortunate. Some jurisdictions, they just couldn't see the forest for the trees. Public health experts, I'm not going to get into that much, but it's nice to see us going. Great, fantastic racing at Belmont since they've opened back up. Some real head scratchers, of course, but real good. Quarantine itself's been good. I actually was away on a trip out of the country and got back just in time. Had to quarantine 2 weeks anyway, so everything worked out perfectly. And then after the 2 weeks, Kentucky's been one of the first to close and slowest to open. So things are just getting back to normal, but we're eating out as much as we can and enjoying the weather now that we're in the 80s.
Let me ask you this. You mentioned Kentucky. I haven't thought, but you're down there in Lexington. I'm guessing the Lexington people are a little bit excited with it's very abbreviated, but to get a Keeneland meet. They'll have the little short meet in July.
Yeah, well, I mean, the industry is excited. The fans aren't because you can't go as of now. I don't think it's going to change, even though they're going to be up to 50 people. Up to 50 people, I think, at the end of this month. The restaurants are going to be up to 50%, so it's possible by July they could change it, but it's tough because Keeneland would have had to sell seats already. But as far as the industry goes, and the community, yes, but the industry, yes, this is going to be a jam-packed meet. They put out the schedule already. I think Wednesday, Thursday are going to be 10, 11 races, a lot of allowance and maidens, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday just loaded with stakes, including the Toyota Bluegrass and the Central Bank Ashland, which are both still points for the Derby and Oaks.
I hadn't thought about it, but you may be kind of a test case for Saratoga. No fans down there, but limited seating in restaurants. I wonder if a lot of restaurants and bars will be showing the races on TV, and people will think, I can't go to the track, but let me go over to Joe's and sit on the patio and kind of enjoy the races. And I wonder if it might be similar up in Saratoga this summer.
It's a good point. It could be. I mean, Saratoga, the locals, of course, is out of town. Lexington, you get some people coming as from out of town who won't because there's no other reason to do it, but it sure will be. I'm sure a lot of TVs are usually on with the races anyway, even more this time. You can bet on your phones, of course, and then there's the Thoroughbred Club over at the track, which is technically a restaurant, so they should be able to be open and, take bets. The Red Mile, which is simulcasting as well as harness racing in the summer, is opened this week with their historical horse racing at 50% and simulcasting, I believe, with distancing and with requirements of maximum numbers of people. So there'll be that opportunity to bet on the races if someone wants to hang out and eat throughout town.
Yeah, interesting. All right, let's just jump into this afternoon. We'll take a look at a little Belmont, a little Churchill, a couple of stakes up at Woodbine. And your race of the week on Equibase this week is the Ogden Phipps. And I would tout people to swing by Equibase and look at Ellis's write-up each and every week on the feature race. But as I say, this week it's the Ogden Phipps. A little bit earlier on the show, we talked to George Weaver. Point of honor off of that. A really nice performance. It was a third, but given the poor start, the third in the Apple Blossom was very good. Ollie's Candy ran second in that same race. So those two horses certainly are going to attract a lot of attention. Pink Sands for Shug, I think, coming off a couple of wins down at Gulfstream is going to attract attention. But I know you thought Blamed had an interesting shot in here, and so we're going to pull up the allowance optional claimer from Oaklawn back on April 30th. Blamed
the stretch finish line is the 16th.
Number 8 here. And with a lot of early speed, Blamed may be the catch me if you can horse. What are your thoughts on the Phipps?
This is exactly what I thought here, Seth. First of all, longest shot on the board at 10-1 in this field may not hold up, but I think the odds are going to be close. Blamed looks like the lone front runner here. It's just a very tactical kind of a race. No other horse really makes a habit of leading at the first call, whether short or long. The 2-turn mile last time out at Oaklawn before that, a bunch of sprints. She's also on an interesting pattern. I don't know if I ever talk to Belmont or someone that ask him. This horse wins every other race. First, 5th, first, 12th, first, 9th, first. Now, 2 in a row is asking a lot. We'll see if she's on the right pattern. But she won 4 in a row in her 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, or 4th, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th starts. She was an Oaks candidate. I'd forgotten that last year, winning the Island Fashion in Sunland Park Oaks and then privately purchased, or not private, I'm sorry, moved to Mott, same owner. But I think it's tactical. What's interesting is she ran good when she won, but he took blinkers off after her whole career in blinkers, and that was her best win in terms of holding on and running just so good in that 2-turn race. So everything's good. The works are good. She shipped up from pace and got to work at Belmont. She's a Grade 3 winner. She's a 1-turn specialist, and this is a 1-turn race. So I think that's good. Pink Sands is the opposite horse, the closer. If Blame doesn't get away on an easy lead, Pink Sands has turned into a monster the last 2 races with those wins in the Rampart and the Inside Information. This 1-turn mile of 16th is just like the Rampart's mile. And certainly there's no knocks on the others. Mott's other horse, Golden Award, was my 3rd win contender because she's done a little wrong here. You toss out the Personal Ensign where she pulled up. She won the Chuvie. She won the Turnback Alarm. She got beaten the Royal Delta on a sloppy track, cutting back for 2 turns to 1. I like that. It's tough, but I think if Blamed anything above 5-2, I'm going to bet her, and I'll bet Pink Sands probably as well. I'll make a couple win bets here because I think the value is there, even in a very salty field.
I like it. All right, let's move on to the Louisville. In Louisville, down at Churchill Downs, Grade 3 event, 1.5 miles the distance. A nice full field of 12 in here. There's a few different ways you can go. Admission office from the outside looks interesting. Tiz the Slam with a little bit of early speed, and it's kind of counterintuitive, but I say it a lot. The longer the distance, perhaps the more dangerous the speed is if they can get out there and lope along early. Fearsome is intriguing to me as a European starting the career. Last couple of races over here, but maybe at a price that one is a little bit of a player. But I pulled up the Joe Hirsch Turf Classic from last October. Number 5 will be Arklow, getting it done in that Turf Classic. Subsequently, 8th in the Breeders' Cup Turf, 5th in the fifth in the Pegasus World Turf. So a couple of less than spectacular performances leading into this. But again, going back to this Turf Classic and the way Arklow performed that day, I think that one is a player as well. And I've always liked this horse. So I'm going to tilt towards Arklow. What do you think in the Louisville?
Well, he's game, but he's got 6 seconds to go with 6 wins. He's 8-5. You got to use him. I wouldn't touch for a win bet. He doesn't always have the fight. When he lost the Belmont Gold Cup to Channel Cat, he lost the Bowling Green. The Belmont Gold Cup, he lost to Ahmad, Channel Maker in the Man Award. He doesn't have that fight sometimes, and he gets in traffic, so it's tough. This is a wide open race, and if people follow me on Twitter, my Uber Capper, it's another one of the blogs I do. You can link to it because I'm not going to be able to go to detail. I love this race for value, Seth. I'm going to start with the 4 He's No Lemon for Graham Motion, a lightly raced 4-year-old, one of Alex Campbell's horses out of its tea time. Just this horse is ready to run big. Ran second in the Bald Eagle Derby, rallying from 9th last September at Laurel. Got placed first. He wasn't interfered with, but the winner interfered with somebody else. Before that, wins second, third. This is a marathon horse, a lemon drop kid of a Dynaformer mare. Can run as long as the right races. Graham's almost 25% off the layoff. He's proven at the level that 150,000 stakes is no different than this grade 300,000. Gets Bear on him. He's 15. 10, You Fearsome is also a horse. I'm going to bet them both to win here and play probably exact as everybody over them instead of a place bet, which worked out really well. About a week ago, I gave out a horse at Churchill, and he got beat by, he was 21-1, got beat by a 25-1 shot. He's got to pay 520. So it's better than a place bet. But Fearsome, yes, 2 U.S. starts, won a 1.5-mile stakes. And by the way, those Echo-based speed figures for Far Hills, that 111 figure that he got is as good as anything Arklo's practically earned, 111 to 115. This horse is just as good, certainly second to Pumpkin Rumble, that hard-knocking horse at 1 3/4, and he's won twice at 1.5 miles on the all-weather. So those are my top 2. I'm going to look at Sky Promise at 20-1 for Diodoro, 1.5 mile win of the Temperance Hill at Oaklawn on dirt, just needs to transfer to turf, and he's by Sky Mesa, so he could. And one more, the 3 Apreciado, one of Maker's pair at 12-1. I'm looking to blow it up here in this race, Seth.
I like it, and I like the info you gave on Fearsome. You've got an Equibase speed figure. They didn't provide. I have Daily Racing for them. They don't have a
There's
speed
no
figure
buyer.
for Fairhill there. So
Yep.
interesting to note that. All right, let's move on. A couple of nice stakes today up at Woodbine, and I should also note that if you go to the Woodbine website, Ellis has a pick or two every day there as well if you click on the handicapping link on the Woodbine website. But 2 3-year-old stakes. We'll start with the 3-year-old boys in the Woodstock, which potentially the horse we're going to look at could have some Queen's Plate implications, you would think, because this is an Ontario-bred Clayton, who just, for Kevin Attard, looked phenomenal in the career debut. We're going to look at that. This is not just a maiden. This is the debut effort. Wins off by a chart margin of 7.5 lengths last November. This is the comeback effort, but again, you would have to think this is a horse with Queen's Plate aspirations. This is not an Ontario-bred restricted stake facing horses that have been bred in Kentucky and beyond, but I think Clayton, this is a nice spot to start the season. It's a 6 furlong stake. This race we just took a look at was 5 furlongs, but boy, that was a really impressive debut. What are your thoughts on the Woodstock?
Well, first, let me say proviso here. I just was checking for my race for the day because I do it, as you said, every day at Woodbine for tomorrow, and he's in an optional allowance race, so I don't know if he's going to stay in this one because it is the start of his 4-year-old campaign. So both my horses here are very tough. Clayton, that race off slow, blocked, and still just blasted off, was a big 92 for the fall Equibase speed figure with trouble. He's a Bodemeister out of a Smart Strike mare. He can run on dirt and turf, all weather, everything he can do it. So he's certainly the play. The other one is Newstom, the 2, part of a pair that ship up Mike Trombetta. Trombetta, this is a Stats Race Fund statistic, the last 3 years, shipping to Woodbine, he's 6 for 23, and 4 of them with Contreras, who's riding this one. 2 nice works at Fair Hills on the all-weather. He's ready to go. He won on the all-weather at Presque Isle last October. So those are the 2 to look at here, Clayton and Newstom.
And it's going to be interesting to see where they pick the spot for Clayton, because he is clearly giving up experience to others in this field, which is important. But on the buyer, he has the edge on this bunch. So maybe if he winds up in here, maybe that'll show a confidence level from Kevin Attard that'll proceed to give bettors a little confidence as well. 3-year-old Fillies in the 8th at Woodbine this afternoon, the Star Shoot, another 6 furlong race. And as I say, this one for the 3-year-old Fillies. Cool Shadows and Curlin's Voyage have traded stakes victory in their last 2 starts. Those are going back to last October and last December. I'm going to look at the October race, the Princess Elizabeth. Cool Shadows is going to be the number 6 horse. I'm maybe more interested in her than Curlin's Voyage, given that the trouble lines in the last two races show that she was off slowly. But I look at that and the Bullet workout on June 5th, and I wonder if they're just trying to maybe overcome the slowness at the start. Now, it wasn't a gate workout, but it just kind of says they're getting her ready to fire and show some speed. So I'm looking at maybe an improved 3-year-old filly as compared to what we saw at the end of last year, which, again, looking at this Princess Elizabeth, was already pretty good. But what are your thoughts on the Star Shoot?
Certainly at 8-1, you got some value, and I'm going to use the horse on the bottom. My top pick is going to be outside the 10 New York Groove. This horse was awesome on the all-weather last year at Presque Isle. Win. Shipped to Woodbine, won the Presque Isle debutante, then shipped to Woodbine, won the Glorious Song. They tried, always you take a shot. Let's take a shot and see if she's good enough to run with other horses. So they try her on turf. She runs lousy 12 in the Florida Oaks. Comes back. She was probably short, 6 months off. Then runs in the Fantasy, runs dead last, back on her favorite surface. 59 flat at Fair Hills, 49-1. Another Trombetta, working in company, by the way, with my pick in the last race, the other one, Newstom. She shipped up a pair here, gets Hernandez, tactical speed. New York Groove looks like the one to beat. I'm going to look at the 5 Curlin's Voyage, coming off a win last seen in the Ontario Lassie, but again, that was restricted versus New York Groove's open wins. And slight looks for the exotics to the 7 Cool Shadows, who you mentioned also as well. And then 1 and 2, Take Charge and Outlet. I think there's going to be a speed duel, by the way, between Outlet and 260. I don't see them getting out of their way. Outlet is a really nice filly, but I think she's going to have her hands full with 260. So I'm going with New York Groove in the Star Shoot.
I like it. Ellis, appreciate the thoughts on this afternoon. Before we let you go, have a minute or so left here and just get an opinion on next week's Belmont Stakes. I had Jack Knowlton on earlier. I think Tiz the Law, undoubtedly the favorite looking at the field. I'm kind of amazed that, typically in the Derby, you're looking at 20 horses fighting to get in. And with a Grade 1, $1 million classic, the size of the field, I'm kind of surprised. I mean, the Bluegrass is sitting out there. Last week, the Santa Anita Derby, so timing-wise, it's a little bit different maybe for people to point to as compared to a normal Triple Crown race. But again, given the field and whatnot, what are your thoughts on next week's Belmont Stakes?
Well, Tiz the Law is, he's the horse to beat. He's been number 1 at chalk, at least if we had the Derby at the regular time, and now as well. Certainly they're going to be gunning to shoot the sheriff against him. As far as the field size goes, discussion last week on some other show I was on about Santa Anita last week with the short fields and all the big stakes, including the Derby. But again, with the month and a half, 2 months log tracks head off, there's just so many choices in every division. And even though the Belmont is still the Belmont as far as prestige, you don't need to run in that race to prep for the Derby if it's not timing right for you, coming off something last month and going into something in the summer with the 3-year-old stakes. So, and they added that race at Del Mar, which horses could look for as well, which is the Shared Belief, which is, I think, middle of July. So that's only a few weeks away from the Belmont. And that's probably the reason why it's short. Plus, they're ducking him. I think there's no reason not to duck him. You don't have to prove yourself at this point because you want to peak on September 5th.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, the reconfigured Triple Crown this year. But, again, we're just all happy to have racing back and returning to some sense of normalcy. And some sense of normalcy returned to us here in Racing Across America with another visit from Ellis Star. We appreciate it this morning. And, as always, we will talk again.
Thanks, Seth. Good luck to everybody today.
Ellis Star, National Racing Analyst for Equibase. Also want to thank George Weaver for joining us a little bit earlier. And, of course, Jack Knowlton, appreciate his visit and wish him a lot of luck next week in the Belmont Stakes with Tiz the Law. Before we let you go, do want to remind you there is a $100 online win-a-bet contest this afternoon. Check out the website for more information there, capitalotb.com. And don't forget, we would love to have you sign up and join us. I'll be back in an hour and a half or so with the afternoon OTB Live, so play along with us. Go to capitalotb.com or capitalotbbet.com. Click on the join or the sign up link. Fill out your appropriate information and take advantage of the sign up bonus for new accounts. Put in $50 or $100. As soon as you bet double that amount, Capital OTB refunds the original deposit amount for some free money to play with. So take advantage of the sign up bonus now. Get a new account. Play along with us here on Capital OTB TV. Do want to alert you as well that some branches are open with restrictions. The Clubhouse Racebook, Latham, Woodlawn, and Columbia Turnpike, they're all in and out right now. But you come in, social distance, wear your mask. You can pre-bet the day. You can make you can make a deposit. You can cash tickets. But as I say, they're in and out at these locations. But we are currently open. Clubhouse Racebook, Latham, Woodlawn, and the Columbia Turnpike branch. And our Easy Bet partners still have similar situations in some of these Easy Bets where you can go in and pre-bet, fund your account. Loopy's in Fonda, Partners Pub Johnstown, O'Toole's right here on Central Avenue. They also have their patio open, so you can go grab some lunch at O'Toole's. Lakeview Inn, Sampson's, Mijos, Canastota Highway Bowl, Hoosiers, Lewis's Tavern, Ogdensburg Bowl, and the St. Charles Hotel. Again, they also serve some food as well, so go in, grab a little takeout, help them out. As I say, fund your account, pre-bet the day, come home, fire up the TV, and play along with us. And as I say, if you grab a little food, you can have a little lunch while you're doing it as well. All right, I'm going to wrap things up for this Saturday edition of Racing Across America. We're back in tomorrow morning at 10. We'll do some stakes reviews and a little handicapping and more tomorrow. In the meantime, as I say, about an hour and a half or so, we will be back in with OTB Live for Saturday afternoon. See you then.
You're watching Capital OTB TV. Wager at CapitalOTBBet.com for the most comprehensive wagering site and the best player rewards in New York State.